A conference like this produces a number of effects. Number one, it's group therapy. Because all these ministers and all these officials need a lot of reinforcing and a lot of support, both in terms of resources, of course, and more infrastructure and all that, but they also need political and psychological support to go on. It's a tough environment out there. Resources are constrained, budgets are tight. Ministers of finance have their big machete out and cutting the budget, and so ministers of education are out there trying to prove and test that $1 more, $1 more yen, €1 more allocated to education is going to produce a multiple of that in terms of the social benefits. The cost benefit of education seemed to be taken for granted for a long time. It was never tested, but it was not questioned. And now, because of the tightness of budgets, it is being questioned. It is being, go for a kind of zero budget. Prove to me why you need the money, every penny. Now, this is one. Second, this is a compensation like banks, when you have a clearinghouse. It's a clearinghouse of ideas, it's a clearinghouse of pain, maybe. It's a clearinghouse of how to solve and address difficult national circumstances or particular targeting questions. There's also a question of how do you deal with certain issues which have to do with the development or the stage of development. Some countries at this stage of development, higher stage development, may have faced the same problems that a South Africa or a Korea or a Mexico or a China or a Brazil are facing today, which have to do with the societies, with poverty, with resources, but also with some techniques, with some utensils, with some tools that you use for a particular. The other thing is that here you get conviction. Your backbone stiffens. You listen. Everybody comes here they all have a mission. They come here to listen, but also to share. And when they listen, that people have the same concerns, but they all want the same things, which is basically to help our children, our young people, to succeed, to face the music better going forward. They go home with a stronger conviction, with a stronger sense of mission, and if anything, perhaps maybe better equipped, or with a network on their back that they can carry and that they can put to good use. So that's another element. Last but not least, this is a unique gathering because you have the ministers and the union leaders. And that makes it not only unique, makes it original, makes it extraordinarily useful, because in many countries you still have these tensions between the unions who are resisting evaluation and think that evaluation is kind of some kind of attack or some kind of undermining, the profession, when exactly the opposite is true. What you're trying to achieve here is how do you measure, how do you gauge, how do you target for better education, which means by knowing exactly what's going on through a thorough evaluation, how do you provide for greater professionalization, for more tools, for more instruments, for more resources, and where? Because it's not just a question of adding. Do you add in the early childhood? Do you add in pre-primary? Do you add in primary? Do you add in the secondary? Do you go for the PISA results that the OECD is putting out constantly? What makes a system better? What are the variables? What are the things that are in common for the better systems? Do you go for the PIAC? Let's focus not only on students, focus on adult education. Or do you go for the TALIS test of the OECD, which is focusing exclusively on teachers? Or do you go for the skills strategy, which is a combination of education, employment, vocational training, etc.? These are different parts of the single undertaking of providing better education so that the young men and women can be more successful. And this is the mission that everybody that comes to this meeting has, and this is why it's so important. This is why there are already a few candidates that want to organize it next year, and already there's a big discussion about the themes that we're going to be discussing next year. Although there's some tension sometimes, there's also, I think, a very great motivation.